Today we're going to go over how to set up your RRU series of racks. They're available in multiple different sizes, but you can follow the steps in this video no matter which size rack you have. So it comes with everything you need to assemble the rack. You have 4 rail pieces that look like this. You also have 4 wheels. There's also a bar that you can put on either the front or the back of the rack. You also have 2 platforms, one top platform that looks like this, and one bottom platform that looks like this, and this is also where we attach the wheels. You also get 2 side panels that look like this for either side of the rack, and it also comes with all of the hardware that you need to assemble everything. So you have all of these screws, you have all of these washers, and you have 4 cage nuts to attach some gear. The first thing we can do is attach the wheels to the bottom platform. So for this, we're gonna need all 4 wheels. We're gonna need the bottom platform here, and we're also gonna need some screws. Now, if we take a look at the bottom platform, you're gonna see these screw holes here. So we're gonna take each wheel and line them up to these holes just like this. Then we can take 2 screws at a time and line them up to 2 holes like here and like here. And then we can screw them in, but we actually recommend not screwing them in all the way, just in case we need to shimmy the wheel so the screw holes on the other side can line up. So we can move the wheel over, take 2 more screws and line them up to the other screw holes, and then just tighten them up to secure the wheel onto the platform. Now we're gonna repeat this process for all of the other wheels, but one thing we want to keep in mind is that we want the wheels with the brakes attached to them to be diagonal from each other. So for example, we have one wheel with the brake on the bottom right corner here, so we are gonna wanna take the other wheel with the brake and put it on the opposite side, so once we lock the brakes in, the rack will stay in place. So after we have all of the wheels attached, we can now move on to attaching the rails for the rack. To do that, we're first gonna lock in the 2 brake wheels just like this, so we can flip the whole platform over. Now we're gonna need some screws and some washers. We're gonna take 1 washer and 1 screw at a time and feed the screw through the washer like that. And now we're going to move on to the rails. Now these rails have 2 sides, so you have one side that has these square holes and the other side has these round threaded holes, so we can choose which one we want to have facing the front. So for example, you can have these circular holes facing the front like this, so that this way when you attach your rack gear, you can do so without using any of the cage nuts. For today though, we're gonna have the square holes facing the front. Now the rails have these 2 holes here, so we're gonna line them up to these 2 holes here on the side of our platform. Then we're gonna take our screws and our washers and line them up to the holes like this. From here we can screw them in, but leave a little room so that way we can shift the rail over for a later step. Then you're just gonna repeat this process to attach the remaining rails. Once you have all of the rails attached, we're gonna move on to the next step, which is gonna be adding the side panels. For this, we're gonna need both side panels here. We're also going to need our screws, and we're also going to need our washers. So we can take 1 panel at a time and line it up to either side like this. If you've left the screws loose enough, you can move the rails out of the way like this, so you have an easier time lining up the platform. Then we can take 1 of our screws and 1 of our washers, feed the screw through the washer like this, line the screw up to one of the holes on the bottom here like this, repeat this process for however many holes there are towards the bottom of the panel, and screw them in to secure the platform onto the side of the rack. We're gonna do the exact same thing to add the second panel onto the other side of the rack. The next thing we're gonna do is add the top platform onto the rack. So for this, we're gonna need the top platform itself. We're also gonna need some screws and some washers as well. Now, one important step is that you want this hole here on the top platform to line up to the hole here on the bottom platform when lining up your top panel. You'll want to be sure that each corner is pushed onto the rack like this. Make sure that it's nice and lined up. Next, we're gonna grab some screws and some washers, feed the screws through the washers like this, Then line up the screws and the washers to all of the holes all around and screw them in, but again, we don't want to screw them in too tight right now, so that way we can move the platform around and make sure that the screws line up nice to each hole. Then we're gonna do the same exact thing on the other side of the platform. Line up your screws and then use your screwdriver or drill to secure the platform. We're gonna do the same on the back of the rack. We have 2 screw holes here, so we're gonna need just 2 screws and 2 washers. Line up the screws just like this and tighten them in like that. And we're gonna do the same for the front of the platform. So we're gonna line up our screws and use the screwdriver or drill to lock the platform in place. And for any screws that are left a little loose all around the rack, just be sure to go again with your drill and tighten them all in to secure everything in place. So now from here, we can place some gear inside of the rack. For this, we're going to need the included cage nuts. We're gonna line them up to any spot along the rails. For today, we're gonna go with the very top. So we're gonna take our first cage nut, line it up there. Then we're gonna take another one and place it directly across. Then you're gonna take 2 more cage nuts, and depending on how long your rack unit is, you're gonna place them at least 1 or 2 spaces below. Then we're gonna line the rack unit up to the spot and use some screws to secure it in place, just like this. And just like that, you have your first unit set up, and if you have more pieces of gear you want to add, you're going to follow the same exact steps. Remember, there's another side to your rail that has these round threads here, so if you wanted, you can place the rails onto your rack like this and add your gear by using some screws without the cage nuts. Remember, there's also this bar here that we can add to the front or the back of the rack by just lining it up to a spot like this, lining up the screws and washers, and then just screw them in to lock the bar in place. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your RRU series of racks, but of course if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through the bio. We'll see you next time.